Okay, so I started doing caps lock on the titles of these. I kind of like that. I think I'm gonna stick with it. Um, what is the American plan? Well, this is what I think is going on. It's basically that whoever has the guns makes the rules, and if the people with all the big guns are saying that your dollar's still worth a dollar, it might be. And we're determining that right now. That's why Russia and China and all them are upset, is because right now America's holding a gun to the world's head and saying, "Yep, it's still worth a dollar." And here's the thing: we're going to do this by taxing the cities. That's what's happening. All of the cost of this is being passed on to the big cities. If you are in a red state or out in the country, don't worry, you'll be fine. What we're going to watch is the death of the American city as every dollar is sucked out of these big cities and they are allowed to implode and collapse. While meanwhile, the red states will be building up. And then here pretty soon, fucking Texas and Oklahoma will be the vice ridden dens of inequity, probably. It's where all the people are going to flock to. People go where the food is. You're running out of food in the big cities. This is the thing that I'm seeing watching Southern Prepper One is I go to stuff around here. I don't even notice that there's a price difference. Go listen to Southern Prepper One for a while and pay attention to where people are that are seeing things that are just gone. It's eventually going to get to Tulsa, but honestly, Tulsa has a port, and we're going to be one of the cities that actually makes it through this probably. And it's not Tulsa that has a port; it's Catoosa that has a port, but it's very, very close. That's why we're as big as we are. And a lot of that I think had to do with oil. Tulsa used to be the oil capital of the world, and they dredged a nav channel all the way to Catoosa just to offload oil. We were part of Canal Mania. You should look into that. If you really think your times now are just happening, and you got an iPhone and you got Glock 17 and a fucking new Sig Spear or whatever, you think you're the hotness. You could have been born in the 1890s. You could have been part of Canal Mania. That's literally a thing in U.S. history. Go look it up. They called it Canal Mania. It's when everybody dug canals, when they dug the Panama Canal. It's basically when people decided, hey, we can dig underwater. I guess I don't know exactly what changed that technology wise, but something changed that, and they went fucking crazy digging canals. Oh, but this is what I see happening: is basically all these big democratic cities are going to eat themselves because they don't make the food. They were 100% reliant upon China for everything that they did. The red states, while still reliant upon China, actually have agriculture and farmland and storage of food, and like we will bounce back and survive. And I think this is the American plan. It's okay, so we have a bunch of people that aren't working and aren't doing whatever and aren't, well, we'll just let it get real shitty for a while, and they'll start stealing shit, and the people that have guns will start shooting them, and then eventually that whole thing will work itself out. That's what our government is doing. I think that's what the political elite are doing. They are counting on us here in the fucking red states to solve their poor people problem for them. It's fucking sick. They could just fucking feed them. I hate the rich in this country. They live to excess for no reason. And I'm guilty of this somewhat myself. I have some excesses, obviously. There was a time in my life where I ate sugar to feel happy, basically. That's how I ended up being 600 pounds. I don't know. I do think it's a little sad that they're just going to sacrifice everyone. Also, last night, I. Fuck. This wasn't just last night. This has been like the last 2 months of this shit. I have been going down a deeper and deeper rabbit hole trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Like, I came to the conclusion that several key pieces of information were true and decided to run them to their logical conclusion. And I'm going to make a video on that. I posted the pictures of what I was writing last night for the video online. It looks insane. I'll admit that. It looks like a map a crazy person would draw. It's not really a map, it's like a timeline. And you have to, it's a guide for me to explain in video this shit that I have in my head now that it blew my reality. And that's hard to do. I I thought I had a pretty good grip on everything, but I wasn't sure about one or two things. And those things were like, who is God? Who built the pyramids? And some other shit like that. And also the whole ancient alien thing, like what gods are gods, what gods are aliens. Oh, it was that one. Um, I don't really know anymore what I believe. What I do believe is that some crazy shit went down 10,000 years ago. As far as what I found out last night, the short version, the Greek gods are 100% real, and they were 100% the survivors of Atlantis. All of Greek mythology are stories of these gods before, during, or after the fall of Atlantis. Like, it depends very much which story we're talking about. And, like, you need to realize that these stories could fill books. And this whole thing interconnects with the ancient Sumerian gods and the ancient Egyptian gods, too. And the Aztec gods as well. And the Norse gods as well. Basically, if you have a religion, stop listening to me now. Here's what it is. So the UFO that crashed at Roswell had Greek writing in it. It's fact one. Fact two, there are all sorts of stories of blonde haired, blue eyed aliens, Norse looking people. And some of those have weird DNA evidence to back them up now from hairs found at like abductions. I don't know how to explain that one. Like I said, some of this is real crazy. But basically, I think when Atlantis ended, uh, they went somewhere for some amount of time, came back. When they came back, they were the Anunnaki to the Sumerians. And eventually, they built up civilization and humanity to a point where they could build something like Atlantis again. And this was Mount Olympus and the Greek gods and Troy, and all that. And this ended with the Trojan War. I'm not sure exactly what went down in all of this, but there's several facts here that you should be aware of. In the Trojan War is that there was a Bronze Age collapse that was caused by sea peoples, and the Trojan War was a part of this. The sea peoples, I put a lot of fucking research into figuring out who they are, and I'm pretty confident that they are like Stone Age, Bronze Age Viking people that like Odin, according to the Romans, was Mercury. Mercury in the Greek pantheon of gods is Hermes. I'm going to go into this in much greater detail in a bigger video later, but basically, I think Hermes built the Great Pyramid, or all of the pyramids, really. And I think for whatever reason, something happened at this Bronze Age collapse Trojan War thing that like a whole bunch of the gods died. And I think Mercury was one of the ones that made it away. Maybe one of the only ones that made it away. And maybe he took someone or a couple people with him, and then, you know, that's how they ended up at fucking like Scandinavia and being fucking Norse gods. And then when they came back for their retribution was the fucking sea peoples. That's kind of where I'm at with it. This is all like none of this is recorded history. All of this is in the myth. Like the best shit we have to go on from this era is the Iliad, the Odyssey, and like some Egyptian shit. So old history, like everything that I'm into and talking about with this subject is as old as Sumeria. Okay? But you need to know that like that same shit was happening all across the world, I think. Like maybe Sumeria was where they originally landed and started fucking with shit. I don't know. But there's a lot of evidence I think that like they've been manipulating our genetics. And if that's the case, maybe they landed in Sumeria and started fucking piling rocks because that's all the pseudo monkey people could do. And they started like adding fucking capabilities or whatever. And like my whole thing is, I think that these gods again are survivors of Atlantis. So they're not really gods. They're like very advanced humans. And their goal, I think, is to reseed this planet with something much like themselves. And I think we're very close now. Like I think there are starting to be people pop up amongst our population that are basically full blown Atlanteans. And like this is the other thing too, is I think maybe the Atlanteans were, you know, varied. Like the Greek pantheon of gods or whatever was like 12 people. What if those were like representatives from all of the different countries or some shit, and like each one was very different? Anyway, this wasn't really what this video was supposed to be about, but like it's fascinating shit. And I drew out a big map of this shit, and I'm gonna go through all that. That's gonna have to be a fucking long video though. I don't know if most people are gonna be down for that. Oh, it's what I've been doing basically is some sort of comparative mythology to history conversion, and drawing it in a timeline, and it kind of got out of hand. If you go look at the pictures, the weird part to me of all of this is that some of this involves transgender shit and like transgender cults. So maybe I'll have to have a whole video on that. I really hope that we don't destroy ourselves. I think what we're going through now is a giant social engineering project on a global scale. I think they are preparing our civilization for something. The thing that really scares me is that there's versions of this where there are aliens to fight. And I'm wondering if they aren't coming back or something now because, like, of some of the stuff that I've heard again and again in conspiracy circles is basically that the gods are returning. And what does that mean for us? And which gods are coming? That's a very important question because, like, the Greek gods are one thing, there are other gods that I'm pretty sure are different species of extraterrestrials that you don't want to be involved with. Freaky insects and reptilians and shit that, like, I think have caused a lot of havoc on this planet. Anyway, thanks for watching. Tell me what you think.